This is improvisational comedy. Welcome to my improvisational comedy show. It's called Keep Laughing. Um, let's just say that you you get to work one day. Let's say you work as an engineer. You get to work, and the whole thing that you work in is made is you work in um, downtown Chattanooga. And as it turns out, the office building they work in has been transformed. All of a sudden it's like it's made out of marshmallow, or no, it's made out of like it's been transformed into a building that's like strictly constructed out of like candy elements, different types of candy. The office itself is made out of candy, so you get into the office and it's like it turns out it's made out of candy, and all of your coworkers are suddenly you find out that they've all been murdered. So all of your coworkers are murdered. All of your coworkers have been murdered, and the office that you worked in as an engineer has been transformed into its very composition has been transformed into different candy elements like marshmallow, chocolate, nougat, caramel, toffee, um, uh, uh, you know, and yeah, the whole office is built. It's all in jelly beans, and it's all just built out of jelly beans. Uh, so it's kind of like almost like living like in, it kind of reminds me of the video for no, I don't know, whatever. Okay, but anyways, but your whole office has been transformed into an office of that's been constructed with candy elements instead of the usual types of brick and mortar types of elements that most office buildings are made of. This your office has been magically transformed into like a office made out of candy, and also the incidentally the all of your coworkers have been murdered. And when you first get in the front door, the person who murdered all your coworkers is just like standing right there with his arms crossed. So you're like, why the fuck did you murder my coworkers? And you say to him, then he says like, I don't know. No, but I didn't. I was just kidding. But I didn't murder your coworkers, but I did kidnap them and deposit them at an undisclosed location in Nevada. I didn't kill them, but I just, I just loaded them up in a van and drove them off to Nevada. They're, they're actually, they're all blindfolded in some weird field in Nevada. I'm going to set them free, but only under one condition. What's that? I want you to read me some Grey's Anatomy and explain some of these principles of Grey's Anatomy to me. I want to hear a lecture on Grey's Anatomy. And if you do so, I'll return all your captives. What? That's your conditions upon that's the conditions upon release. That I mean, you'll release my coworkers and not murder them if I give you a Grey's Anatomy lecture. Yeah. Okay, here's a Grey's Anatomy lecture. Okay, Grey's Anatomy. Okay, here we go. Grey's Anatomy. Should I have any kind of a preamble to this? I've read this before. Um, Let me see. Okay. All right. Um, let's see. Um, okay, here we go. Oh, that's there we go. Uh, the transversus perini in the female is a narrow muscular slip which passes more or less transversely across the back part of the perineal space. It arises by a small tendon from the inner and fore part of the tuberosity of the ischium and passing inward is inserted into the central part of the perineum, joining in this situation with the muscle of the opposite side. The exterior sphincter and the sphincter vagina in front, the perineal branch of the internal pudic. By their contraction, they serve to fix a central tendinous point of the perineum. The sphincter vagina surrounds the orifice of the vagina, and it's analogous to the accelerated urinary in the male. It is attached posteriorly to the central tendinous point of the perineum, where it blends with the external sphincter, and its fibers pass forward on each side of the vagina to be inserted in the corpora cavernosa of the clitoris. Coursing over the body of the organ so as to compress the dorsal vein. The perineal branch of the internal plea, it diminishes the orifice of the vagina. The interior, okay. I think you get the point. Okay, let's see. The lymphatic system. The lymphatic system includes not only the lymphatic vessels and the glands through which they pass, but also the lacteal and coliferous vessels. The lacteals are the lymphatic vessels of the small intestine, different in no respect from lymphatic generally, except that they contain a milk-white fluid. No, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, but okay. Surgical anatomy of the upper extremity. The student, having completed the dissection of the muscle of the upper extremity, should consider the effects likely to be produced by the action of the various muscles and the fracture of the bones. In concerning actions of the various muscles upon fractures of the upper extremity, the most common forms of injury have been selected for both for illustration and description. Fracture of the middle of the clavicle is always attended with considerable displacement. The inner end of the outer fragment is displaced to inward and backward, while the outer end of the same fragment is rotated forward. The whole outer fragment is somewhat depressed. The displacement is produced as follows: inward, by the muscles passing from the chest to the outer fragment of the clavicle to the scapula, and to the humerus. Vis-a-vis the subclavius and the pectoralis minor, and to less extent the pectoralis major and the latissimus dorsi backward, in consequence of the rotation of the outer fragments. The serratus magnus causes the fragment of the clavicle forward, causes the scapula to rotate the wall of the chest. This carries the acromion to the outer end of the outer fragment of the clavicle forward, and causes the piece of the bone to rotate forward around a vertical axis through its center, and so carries the inner end of the outer portion backward. The skeleton. I'm going to cover the skeleton now. Let's see the skeleton. Descriptive and surgical anatomy. Osteology of the skeleton. The entire skeleton in the adult consists of 200 distinct bones. These are the spine or vertebral column, sacrum and coccyx included, cranium, face, hyoid bone, sternum, and ribs, upper extremities, lower extremities. In this enumeration, the patella are included as separate bones, but the smaller sesamoid bones and the ossicula, adductus, are not reckoned. The teeth belong to the tegumentary system. These bones are divisible into 4 classes: long, short, flat, and irregular. The long bones are found in the limbs, where they form a system of levers which have to sustain the weight of the trunk and to confer the power of locomotion. A long bone consists of a shaft and 2 extremities. The shaft is a hollow cylinder, contracted and narrowed to afford greater space for the bellies of the muscles. The walls consist of dense, compact tissue of great thickness in the middle, but become thinner toward the extremities. The spongy tissue is scanty, and the bone is hollowed out in its interior to form the medullary canal. The extremities are generally somewhat expanded for greater convenience of mutual connection, for the purposes of articulation, and to afford a broad surface for muscular attachment. Here, The bone is made up of spongy tissue with only a thin coating of compact substance. The long bones are not straight, but carved. The curve generally taking place in two directions, thus affording greater strength to the bone. The bones belonging to this class are the clavicle, humerus, radius, ulna, I'm just kidding, femur, tibia, fibula, metacarpal and metatarsal bones, and the phalanges. Short bones, where a part of the skeleton is intended for strength and compactness, and its motion is at the same time slight and limited, is divided into a number of small pieces united together by ligaments, and the separate bones are short and compressed, such as the bones of the carpus and tarsus. These bones and their structure are spongy throughout, excepting at their surface, where there is a thin crust of compact substance. The patellae also, together with the other sesamoid bones, are by some regarded as short bones. Flat bones, where the principal requirement is either extensive protection or the provision of broad surfaces for muscular attachment, we find the osseous structure expanded into broad flat plates, as is seen in the bones of the skull and the shoulder blade. These bones are composed of two thin layers of compact tissue, enclosing between them a variable quantity of cancellous tissue. At the cranial bones, these layers of compact tissue are familiarly known as the tables of the skull. The outer one is thick and tough, the inner one thinner, denser, and more brittle, and hence termed the vitreous table. The intervening cancellous tissue is called the diplo. The flat bones are the occipital, parietal, frontal, nasal, lacrimal, vomer, scapula, os intimonatum, sternum, ribs, and patella. The irregular mixed bones are such as, from their peculiar form, cannot be grouped under either of the preceding heads. Their structure is similar to that of the other bones, consisting of a layer of compact tissue externally and of spongy cancellous tissue within. The irregular bones are the vertebrae, sacrum, coccyx, temporal, sphenoid, ethmoid, malar, superior maxillary, inferior maxillary, palate, inferior turbinated, and hyoid. If the surface of any bone is examined, certain eminences and depressions are seen. Oh, I'm giving a lecture on Gray's Anatomy, Preston. Okay. Which descriptive anatomists have given the following names. These eminences and depressions are of two kinds, articular and non-articular. Do you like Gray's Anatomy? Are you interested in science, or are you interested in medicine or science? I'm giving a lecture on Gray's Anatomy right now. Okay. Well-marked examples of articular eminences are found in the heads of the humerus and femur, and of particular depressions in the glenoid cavity of the scapula and the acetobellum. Non-articular eminences are designated according to their form. Thus, a broad, rough, uneven elevation is called a tuberosity, a small, rough prominence, a tubercle, a sharp, slender, pointed eminence, a spine, a narrow, rough elevation running some way along the surface, a ridge or line. The non-articular depressions are also very variable form and are described as foci, grooves, furrows, fissures, notches, etc. These non-articular eminences and depressions serve to increase the extent of the surface for the attachment of the ligaments and muscles, and are usually well marked in proportion to the muscularity of the subject. A prominent process projecting from the surface of a bone, which it has never been separate from or movable upon it, is termed an apophysis, process developed as a separate piece from the rest of the bone. Okay. I can move on to another part of the body. Let's see. The nervous system. The nervous system is composed of a series of large centers of nerve matter called collectively the cerebral spinal centers or cerebral spinal axis. Two, of smaller centers termed ganglia. Three, of nerves connected either with the cerebral spinal axis or the ganglia. And four, of certain modifications of the peripheral terminations of the nerves forming the organs of the external senses. The cerebral spinal axis consists of the brain or encephalon and the spinal cord, which are contained within the skull and spinal canal. The brain and its membranes will be first considered, and then the spinal cord and its coverages. The membranes of the brain. Dissection. To examine the brain with its membranes, the skull cap must be removed. In order to effect this, saw through the external table. The section commencing in front about an inch above the margin of the orbit and extended behind and a little above the level with the occipital protuberance. Then break the internal table with a chisel and hammer. To avoid injuring the investing membranes or brain, loosen and forcibly detach the skull cap when the dura mater will be exposed. The adhesion between the bone and the dura mater is very intimate and much more in some young subject than to the adult. The membranes of the brain are the dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. The dura mater. The dura mater is a thick, dense, and inelastic fibrous membrane which lines the interior of the skull. Its outer surface is rough and fibrillated and adheres closely to the inner surface of the bones, forming their internal periosteum, this adhesion being most marked opposite the sutures and to the base of the skull. Then you have the arachnoid membrane, the glandula pagioni and arachnoid villi, the pia mater, the brain. General considerations, divisions. The encephalon, or brain, is that portion of the cerebral spinal axis which is contained in the cavity of the cranium. For purposes of description, it may be divided into 5 parts as follows. 1. The 2 cerebral hemispheres. 2. The inner brain. Think about how interesting this is. Everybody has a brain. Oh, you like my original songs? Oh, thanks. Which song do you like in particular? Oh, I'm very flattered by that. I'm glad to hear that, Preston. Which songs do you like to hear in particular? What's your favorite of my songs that I wrote, Preston? Heavy Metal Girl. Oh, thanks. I'm really flattered by that. I love that song too. Anything else? You keep listening to it. I hope you listen every day because I'm trying to get I'm trying to get more subscribers. I'm trying to get more views on YouTube, and I'm about that close to being able to monetize my channel. So I hope you keep viewing my stuff and tell your friends about me. But yeah, I'm so happy to hear that you like Heavy Metal Girl. Yeah, I love that song too. I just kind of that riff just kind of popped in my head. That and then I came up with the other riff that and the way I came up with the riff. Wait! You actually made that you actually made that original, yeah. Well, actually, yeah. Yeah, and Oh yeah, because it's well, yeah, actually, well, so the heavy metal girl, if you want to know the meaning behind that song, um, um, she's my heavy metal girl. She's from what? Stuck in your head for a week. It's really cool. That it's a really interesting idea to know that somebody like you wrote a song. And it's like actually that song is like stuck in their head. That it becomes like it's like you can actually hear. Can you actually hear that song in your head? I found that really interesting. To actually to know that I wrote a song that like somebody has like because I know what it's like to have somebody else's song stuck in your head in my head, and I can't get it out of my head. But they actually think that's a song. One of my songs is actually stuck in somebody else's head. I find very fascinating. Oh, thanks. You like the chorus and the verse, yeah, because the chorus is beautiful and psychokinetic. Moves my soul, yeah, she's so frenetic. Fire starter, she's getting smarter. In my dreaming, I hear her screaming. Yeah, it's just supposed to. I kind of like it's kind of a stream of consciousness type of lyrics, and I just tried to come up with. I just come up with like a there's kind of a like a notion behind it all, but then I just kind of like stream of consciousness and some lyrics is just kind of abstract, and I just kind of make it just try to like I just let it kind of spill out of my subconscious where it mingles with my conscious, and it all comes together in my brain, and I just kind of like then it comes through my hand through the pen onto paper, come up with the melody, a chorus, a chord progression, try to make it a badass melodic song and try to sing it with passion. And hopefully, I got a new hit single. That's how I come up with my songs. But oh, thanks. It's super cool. Oh, so trippy. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So I kind of like, because I like some heavy metal. I don't like all heavy metal. I like some heavy metal, the good stuff. I like Metallica. I like um, Thin Lizzy. I like um, I like Black Sabbath, the good heavy metal, the good stuff. Yeah, I'd love to make a studio version of that song. I'd like to get a good producer to work on it. I'd like to get into a professional studio like at Warner Brothers or something like that. Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, because that's to tell you the truth. Yeah, Black Sabbath is awesome. To tell you the truth, I've got nice equipment. I mean, I've got a nice Marshall amp. I've got a nice guitar. It's a Epiphone, which is made by Gibson. But other than that, it's recorded right onto the computer. That's pretty much I have the computer. It's not recorded through the computer. It's recorded like with the computer is the only recording device I have. So I record it. So I have to record it kind of loud to get it to any kind of volume on the computer. For the computer actually to pick up any kind of volume in the recording, it has to be recorded loud. So you could if I recorded it like it didn't record it loud enough, you wouldn't be able to hear it. So it's just like recorded right onto the computer. But then some of the recordings I just recorded right to the phone. But if I had a better recording, like if even I don't even have like a 4-track recording. It's recorded onto the phone and onto the computer. I have a keyboard. I actually have a keyboard that records that you can record drum samples on, and you can play the piano on. And you record drums and bass, and so that's my drums. My drums are strictly just. I don't have like a real drum set. I have a keyboard that we can record. I can record a drum beat. I can come up with if I come up with a drum beat, I can record it on the on my keyboard, and those are my drums. And then so it's everything is me. It's everything you're hearing is me. There's no other musicians, no other songwriters, no other singers. It's a one man show, and I write the lyrics, I sing everything, I play all the instruments, but it's all I just like to. But that's kind of the way I like it because I think that if I was in a band, I'm kind of a ball hog, and I would just want to do everything myself. I like to. I don't know. I just like to do everything myself and just like write everything. I guess if I did collaborate, that would be kind of fun too. Yeah, yeah. Because if you're in a band, like there's always fights in bands because everybody's got their egos and everybody wants to everybody wants to be the leader. But there are some people that are comfortable with just being kind of like just like the rhythm section, I guess. Yeah, are you in a band too? Yeah, are you in a band, Preston? What's the name of the band? Oh, you play bass. Cool. Oh, cool. But oh yeah, guitar player too. Yeah. So what's the name of the band? Holophony. Holophony. Are you on YouTube? Oh, cool. Yeah, I have to look it up. Holophony. Is it what kind of music is it? Is it hard rock, heavy metal? Oh, you're recording an album. Oh, cool. What's the name of it? Like power metal. Cool. If there's a band that you can compare it to, what would you say? What would you compare it to? Which band? Uh, yeah, but yeah, yeah, I know. Heavy metal's not my favorite either. I mean, I like some heavy metal. I mean, I basically just like hard rock. Hard rock, but it's not like. Yeah, I mean, I like hard rock. I mean, heavy metal isn't my favorite genre, to tell you the truth. But I like a few. I like some Metallica. Their early stuff is the best. I usually don't listen to heavy metal. I listen to some of it sometimes. What I like is just great hard rock with a lot of melody. I like folk. I like country. Not a little bit of country, not too much. A little bit. I like just great pop, hard rock, and blues rock. Yeah, Metallica is great. Yeah, I like blues rock. It's got to have melody. It's got to have great lyrics. That's what I like is hard rock with great lyrics. Something that means something. Something that has like a meaning to it. Something that has like poetry to it. Something that has great melody to it. Something that like gives you something to think about. Something that's stuff like that. And Metallica actually does give you some good lyrics to think about, and there's a lot of social relevance to their stuff. There's like some great riffs. Yeah, yeah. Um, but and then Megadeth has some pretty good stuff too. Megadeth is really good. The Misfits, um, Misfits are great. The Danzig is really good. And then I just kind of like hard rock. I like Blue Oyster Cult. Do you listen to Blue Oyster Cult? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Blue Oyster Cult. They're great. Yeah. Yeah. Godzilla. Great song. Godzilla. Don't Fear the Reaper. Don't Fear the Reaper is something that we could all relate to. I guess Buck Dharma. He wrote the song when he thought he was dying. Did you know that Buck Dharma wrote the song "Don't Fear the Reaper" when he was given the prognosis by a doctor that he was going to die. So he wrote a song to kind of like give him some courage in the face of death. It turns out that he didn't have a terminal illness after all, and he didn't die. Obviously, now he's in his 70s, and a few years, like 2 or 3 years ago, they released one of the best albums of their career, as a matter of fact. So, but I think "Don't Fear the Reaper" is something we could all relate to because what could be more terrifying than the thought of your own mortality? And just to have like a songwriter or a poet to actually make sense out of everything and kind of sort through the yeah, it's a great song. Yeah, to sort through things and I think that's the role of art is to sort through both the tragedies of life and the joys, the victories, the losses, and to make sense out of everything. That's the role of the artist, I think. But it's a great song to have a somber feel. Yeah, it's got a somber feel. It's got a kind of a melancholy feel to it. Um, it's got kind of a melancholy feel to it, and yet it's like powerfully melodic and I don't know. It's got a somber feeling to it, but it brings me joy. It's funny how like sad song. I love sad songs, but they actually bring me joy. Sometimes I think I like sad songs better than happy songs. The band is good. Yeah, the band is great. This lives. Yeah, you saw them. Yeah, they're great. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great band live, yeah. Did you ever see Kiss live? Neither have I. They're going to be appearing at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. But or no, they already did appear. It's a farewell tour, and I guess Gene Simmons is actually Gene Simmons. I think they disbanded now, and I think Gene Simmons is going on a solo tour. I think he's like starting like Mach 2 of his old musical career now at like 74. He's going to start writing new albums and going out on tour himself until he's like 120 or something, I guess. Actually, Gene, Kiss has been a band since before, like, I think that the first gig was like in front of like Neanderthal men. They've been around so long, yeah. Oh, you wait a minute. I also want to see the Stones, but the tickets are insane. Yeah, insanely pricey. Yeah, I'm not going to pay $4,000 to see the Rolling Stones. You see like a Rolling Stones cover band at the Displays Theater for like $4. I'll just see the cover band. Yeah, yeah, fuck that. Just see the cover band. Do you like cover bands? Screw it. Yeah, free entry to local pub cover band. Yeah, see the cover band. Actually, I saw a cover band called The Atomic Punks is a Van Halen cover band, and I saw them at Rosemont, and they actually had a guitar player that actually did work with David Lee Roth, and this guitar player was just an absolute virtuoso. He did the Van Halen parts, the Eddie Van Halen parts, like just on the money. And yeah, yeah, I heard of it. Yeah, and these guys are like they're like in their 50s. Well, I mean, I think the lead singer is like 55 or something. I mean, he's like 2 years older than me, so he's 56. When I first saw him, I was 52, and I think I was 51, and he was 53. Now I'm 54, and he's 56. But he's got a really good voice. He sings just like David Lee Roth. The guitar player used to work with the real David Lee Roth, and did you know that David Lee Roth is from Indiana? That's weird, isn't it? He's actually from Indiana. None of the band, they're like a California band, but they're all from different places. David Lee Roth is from Indiana. Eddie Van Halen is from Amsterdam, I think. He's from like the Netherlands or something like that. And Michael Anthony is from Chicago. And the bass player is from Chicago. And so they're all, but they migrated to California to go pick up those hot California chicks. Yeah. 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 They're from all different places. David Lee Roth is from Indiana. He's the son of a doctor. Um, Michael Anthony is from Chicago, and Eddie Van Halen is like, the funny thing about Eddie Van Halen, the thing about really really good about Eddie Van Halen is like the coolest thing about him is he never had to have a job. I mean, he said he never had a job, and how could you not envy that? His only job that he ever had, Eddie Van Halen, was to be the guitar player for one of the coolest rock bands of all time. That was his only job ever. He just wanted the music. He started learning guitar when he was a kid, and he never had to have a job. Lucky bastard, huh? He never had to have a fucking job. And he became like a billionaire. Super fucking lucky, huh? Yeah. And I don't envy people like that. I just like, I admire them. And go, more power to them. It's even hard. It's harder now. Yeah, it's harder to find success in music. But you know why? Because the biggest successes in music are like Taylor Swift and people like that. It's like, but it's hard to just like form a band. Labels suck. You're right, and it's hard to like just like form a band and try to put out an album and have it sell like double platinum these days. It just doesn't work anymore. I mean, that's kind of like that's like in the past. Now it's like it's all like Spotify, and I mean, all the best music came out like in the '70s and '80s and stuff like that, and be prior to that, but '60s, '70s, '80s. Now I'm hearing some like just lame ass shit, to tell you the truth. But all the best stuff is all the old stuff. But there's some new artists that I love though. I love Billie Eilish and Katy Perry. I'm a big fan of hers. Yeah, I'm kind of old school. Yeah, but it's funny how I am finding new stuff that I like. And as a matter of fact, it's like all these like pop girls. I kind of like them, and they're actually cooler than some of the new rock bands. Like some of these people like Miley Cyrus, she rocks harder, and Katy Perry and Miley Cyrus, they rock harder than some of this new music that's supposed to be rock. And it's really like it's like nursery rhymes or something. All the new rock bands I've seen aren't even rock. It's like borderline. Yeah, exactly. Whatever happened to rock and roll? Like Miley Cyrus is more rock and roll than some of these new bands, or people like. Did you ever hear Olivia Rodrigo? She's actually cooler than some of the new. Yeah. Also, metal is the same way. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like Olivia Rodrigo is cooler than like some of the new bands that are supposed to be rock that are actually like nursery rhymes or something. She's like more punk than like the new stuff. They totally are. Yeah, yeah, aren't they? And they're actually talented. Some of those girls are really talented. I mean, I never knew this because I grew up like some of my favorite bands because I'm 54 years old, and so I grew up with some great stuff like the Clash, the Pixies, Sex Pistols, Metallica, the Replacements, Pierre Ubu, Captain Beefheart, Tom Waits, Aha, ZZ Top, Jackson Brown, Aerosmith, the Eurythmics, Deep Purple, the Cars, Iggy Pop, Triumph, Lena Lovitch, Heart, Fleetwood Mac, Liz Phair, Neil Young, U2, the Eurythmics, the Alarm, the Cowboy Junkies, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Van Morrison, the Doors, the Psychedelic Furs, Adam and the Ants, Concrete Blonde, REM, Stiff Little Fingers, Steve Wynn, Dream Syndicate, Morrissey, Mazzy Star. And so I grew up with some great stuff. So I got all these great influences. And I've got literally, I must have like a PhD in musicology. I mean, I never went to, I've got a college degree, but it's not in music. But I bet I could like actually pass a PhD exam in musicology. But I grew up with the best stuff. So I know what good music is. Some of this new stuff is not even music. But what I do like is stuff like some of these new pop girls I really like. Because they're at least, they may not be like totally punk or totally avant-garde or anything, but they're doing what they really want to do. They're trying to write good lyrics that come from the heart. They're moving, emotionally moving, and there's like pop hooks in there. and at least it sounds like, oh, you're getting your degree in music? That's really cool. What is, if you were actually to pin down what your favorite type of music is, what would you say? Do you have a favorite kind of music, or is it just, do you just like all sorts of music? Old school punk, yeah. Punk is the best. I mean, it's like, yeah, punk, grunge, and punk. I almost agree. I mean, punk is, yeah. I'm really totally punk. The best punk bands of all time would have to be the Ramones, the Clash, um, Sex Pistols. Um, I don't know if you could actually call the Go Go's a punk band, but they have like punk influences. I'm a fan of the Go Go's. Oh, and then you like the hardcore punk like Black Flag and the Descendants and people like that. Black Flag is great. You ever heard Black Flag? Yeah, Black Flag is great. Henry Rollins. Um, then you have Descendants. Yeah, the Descendants are great. Yeah. Um, don't they have an album called Milo Goes to College or something like that? Is that the Descendants? There's so many great. Yeah, Milo. Yeah, we're trying to get Milo Goes to College. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Descendants. I have like one of their albums. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but I got to put that on again. But yeah, hardcore punk. It's actually it's kind of like if you take the remote. The hardcore punk is almost like you feel like actually hardcore punk was kind of invented by Black Flag. Like the Greg Dolly from Black Flag. Is that his name? Greg? No, the guy that started the is that no? That's the guy from the Afghan Wigs. The guy that started that Black Flag, the label, he was like an electrical engineer, and he formed SST Records with bands like the Minutemen and the Meat Puppets. But he was an electrical engineer, I believe, and he played guitar too. And he fused like punk rock. He fused like punk, like the Ramones and the Clash, with like jazz, with jazz. He fused it with like freeform jazz, I think, to form like, so it's a kind of like a so hardcore punk is kind of a fusion of like freeform jazz and punk rock to get that that kind of like rhythm, that it kind of gives it, so it's kind of like a free, actually that's kind of like the that's kind of like the origin of hardcore punk and bands like Black Flag, and yeah, it's also a bit thrashy, yeah, and that whole fusion of like freeform jazz with like and maybe even a little bit of heavy metal influence with freeform jazz and punk is where you get the hardcore punk. That's how hardcore punk formed. I think it came out. Yeah, but yeah. hmm So yeah, thrash came in. So these things are all interrelated and interconnected, and that's kind of like the kind of one of the passions of mine is just to really dissect everything and to understand like the how everything like came about and how everything what the how everything how music evolved over the years. When you think about it, like it all starts with like these blues greats with like Robert Johnson sitting on the prairie, like strumming on his like acoustic guitar, coming up these like heartbreak blues songs and everything, and then that evolves into rock and roll and country kind of like fused together. I mean, blues and country and all these other elements like jazz kind of like fused together to become rock and roll. Rock and roll um, kind of like underwent the kind of like metamorphosis in the 60s with like different rock bands like experimenting with like Eastern influences, like Indian influences, and like more different like playing the sitar and stuff like that, and trying to find like more transcendent directions to take rock and roll in, and psychedelic rock, and so that, and then like progressive bands in the early 70s from England, um, they tried to find a whole new form of rock and roll that kind of fused just like hard rock, like just Led Zeppelin-esque type of stuff, and Black Sabbath, like just Rolling Stones, and then harder rock and roll forms like Deep Purple. They tried to fuse that. Well, actually, I think Deep Purple is actually probably somewhat. I wouldn't call Deep Purple a progressive band, but it's kind of like progressive in nature insofar as it's not just a 12-bar blues rock riff. It's like, but getting back to the original point, some of these bands like Yes and everything, and King Crimson, they pretty much took hard rock and they tried to fuse like even classical elements of classical music, even like Beethoven and stuff like that, and to bring that into the picture and to fuse that all together and bring in some more ambitious lyrical writing, and that became progressive rock. And then in the 70s, in the late 70s, some of these bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, they were getting tired of all this like pretension in rock and roll. They wanted to bring it back to like the 50s style of rock and roll that was like just more raw and just kind of emotional and everything, and just try to bring it back to something more pure and everything. And then so they did that, and then the new wavers came along and said like, okay, enough of this like punk. We're getting bored with punk. Let's bring some pretension back into it. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. It's like watching a tennis match. The ball watch like a ball being hit back and forth in a tennis match. It's always shifting. It's a very cyclical in nature, and it's like music is always like, it's always a battle of like what's the new zeitgeist, and who's got the new zeitgeist, and what's the new trend, and like what's cool these days, and like what was cool yesterday is not cool today. And it's like, and I think it's all just fun. I mean, I'm all about music and about like the evolution of music. I think it's like it's so fun to observe the evolution of music, and just to see it evolve. And it's like, it's fun to guess at like what's the next trend going to be, what are the future bands going to be like, what direction is music going to go in the future, and that's always the most interesting aspect of it, to see what it's going to be like in the future. And it's like maybe something we've never heard before. I'm always looking to hear new music and new sounds that I've never heard, something that like I can't even define, something that's like just so transcendent and new and original that like it's just groundbreaking. That's what I love the most in music. There's something original and groundbreaking, and that's the hardest thing to accomplish in music, of course. It's the easiest thing to just do something that's like derivative, but to do something original, that's the hardest thing in music. That's like the holy grail. But that's what I'm in it for. But then sometimes it's so hard to be original in music, then you find yourself just like kind of being derivative so you can come up with a new song. But you got to keep trying to be original, because that's like that's the best. Preston, I mean, it was really nice talking to you. I actually have to go eat dinner now, but it was really fascinating talking to you. It's really good luck with your degree in music. I think that's cool, so cool that you're majoring in music, and yeah, it was really interesting talking to you. I hope you keep listening to all my videos. Like I have like, you're going to be astounded at how many videos I have on YouTube. There's like yeah, it was nice talking to you too, man. Nice talking to you, man. And I hope you keep listening to the Heavy Metal Girl. I'm glad that you like Heavy Metal Girl, because that's a song that I happen to be really proud of. And It's just a fun song, and I hope you just keep listening to it over and over again, so I can keep getting views and tell your friends about me too, and maybe if tell your friends about me, and I'll look up your. I want to look up your band too. I'm gonna look up. I want to hear your stuff on YouTube because I want to hear what your music sounds like too, and I'll subscribe to your channel too, and maybe I'll see you in concert someday. Maybe you'll see me in concert someday. That'd be great. All right, yeah, man. All right, so yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be awesome. So yeah, so I'm gonna say so. I love talking about music. I don't love just like I love playing music, but I not just playing it. I love talking about music. I love talking about I love analyzing music and trying to understand like what makes music good and what makes music bad and how to come up with good music. Can you approach music from a mathematical standpoint and just like from a mathematically can I like come up with a melody just based on patterns and notes, or is it something that just has to come to you like something you have to hear in your head, something that's just and if so, if music is something that like you have to something that has to be just to come to you, and that can't be just you can't be arrived at through a musical formula, a mathematical formula or a musical formula, something that has to be that just come to you as a sort of like a bolt of inspiration. Because I have had those inspirational moments. I have like had melodies pop into my head that I've used, and I like the melody, and I used it. All you really need is like a one good riff or one good melody, and you got a new song. It's just all it takes is like a tiny little riff or a melody, and you just have to develop it. I think when you come up with a melody or a riff, that's a sign that you've been inspired and that you should seek to turn that riff or that melody into a song. That's it's almost like you're seeing the light. You hear something, and that's like the sign that you need to turn that into a song. If you don't, it's a waste. And so I wonder if that's like something that can be arrived at through a formula, through a mathematical formula, or like a song formula, or something that is strictly pure inspiration. And if it is pure inspiration, does that mean that there's a supernatural force, a metaphysical force at work? What is true inspiration? Is true inspiration metaphysical in nature, or is it strictly physical in nature? It's all really fascinating to me, like how all the great songwriters come up with that stuff. I mean, it's like really, yeah. Is it either? Yeah, it kind of happens. Yeah, it seems like you can't really force it. It's because like the other day I got this new song that I like it's called. Well, I came up with two titles for the song. One title is Punk Rock Planet, and the other title is Planet Punk. It's the same song, Planet Punk and Punk Rock Planet. And it's just about like a planet that is ruled by punk rockers, I guess. And there's like a supernatural type of essence permeating the atmosphere of the planet. I'm not really describing it that well right now, but I got to go back and read the lyrics to figure out what I really mean by the lyrics. But it's like I came up with I came up with a riff that was kind of like it's in B minor, and I came up with this riff that kind of like I came up with this formulaically. I just kind of like came up with a riff, and I just kind of thought like, okay, I'll go from B minor to F sharp minor. Well, it's actually power chords, and I'll go from B to F sharp, and then I'll take it over to G, and then I'll take it up to A, and then I'll do it, on B for like 4 beats, and then I'll take it over to F sharp for 4 beats, and I'll only do 2 beats on G, and then whatever, so forth. But then when I came up with a riff that I liked better, this riff, it just popped into my head, and I didn't arrive at that riff through analysis or through some kind of like formula. The riff just like popped into my head. It just kind of came to me, and that's how I arrived at that riff. So, and I thought, no, that's the riff. That's what the riff for the song should be. It's the riff that just kind of like came to me as pure inspiration. Bye.